I know I've said this in several episodes of the Amanda Show, but 2024 is shocking me every week. So one week I think, oh, I have never seen something like this. I didn't expect this happening at all. And then the next week, thinking that I have to talk, but then the next week, something eclipses it. This is the same thing with this story today. I didn't have it on my bingo card that the Nigerian government was going to go again boldly, is going to go openly against the richest man in Africa, who is also the richest black man in the world, Aliko Dangote. Let's discuss. So, some months ago, during a press briefing, Aliko Dangote made a statement, and I mentioned it passingly in one of the episodes of the Amanda Show, one of our previous episodes. So Aliko Dangote made a statement, and he let us know that there is an oil cabal that is trying to frustrate his Dangote refinery to get it out of the market. I thought it was very interesting. I mentioned it in passing. Then another time again, he also alluded to that oil cabal. In fact, when shortly after he said that, there was a fire outbreak in his refinery. Everybody said, "Don't worry, it's not sabotage. Don't worry, Dangote refinery is fine." Blah blah blah. So this week, government regulators that are regulating this whole oil something in Nigeria came out openly and said that Dangote is a monopoly. In fact, that Dangote wants the government to send all the oil marketers and all these people who get oil to send them to his refinery. So he's going to dominate the market. And this, oh my Jesus. So this government official went on to say that, well, they're not going to let it, I'm paraphrasing, but I'm going to play the video for you, but I'm paraphrasing, but they're not going to let it happen. In fact, um, that the it's important for Nigeria to keep importing oil to ensure, instead of allowing Dangote to be in monopoly in the industry, it's important for Nigeria to keep importing oil to ensure energy security. Then he went on to say that Dangote refinery is producing inferior oil. Mark my words, inferior oil. Watch this video and then we'll come back to discuss it.
Concerns about supply of petroleum products nationwide and the claims by some media houses that we're trying to scuttle Dangote refinery. That is not so. Dangote refinery is still in the pre-commissioning stage. It has not been licensed yet. We haven't licensed them yet. They're still in pre-commissioning. I think they're about 45% in completion rather. So we cannot rely heavily on one refinery to feed the nation, because the Dangote is requesting that we should suspend or stop all importation of petroleum products, especially AGO and jet kero, and direct all marketers to the refinery. That is not good for the nation in terms of energy security, and that is not good for markets because of monopoly. So in terms of quality, currently the AGO quality in terms of sulfur is the lowest as far as West African requirement of 50 ppm. Dangote refinery, as well as some modular refineries like Walter Smith's refinery, Arada refinery, they're producing between 650 to 1,200 ppm. So in terms of quality, their quality is much, much inferior to the imported quality.
Did you hear him? That is a very, I wanted to say disrespectful, but disrespectful is is not doing it justice. That's a very silly thing for a government official to say. Very silly. Because as a government official, it is your duty to package your country and the product from your country to look well on the global stage. But if a government official, that is, you're speaking on behalf, you can say you're speaking on behalf of the government, but if a government official is going to come out to say that um, Dangote is a monopoly, Dangote is producing inferior oil, inferior, listen to that word inferior. Then he goes on to say that we need energy security in Nigeria, so therefore we don't need, we should keep importing oil. Here's my take. I'm going to push back on that. Number one, what is energy security? Is energy security not self-sufficiency? That's what it means to me. All those countries are moving to secure themselves. Many of those countries don't have oil. Many of them don't have oil. And those that don't even have oil, many of them have refineries in their countries. Why do they keep refineries in their countries? So that they can ensure energy security. But a government official is saying that energy security means to be dependent on outsiders. Energy security, in fact, the main energy security is allowing Dangote refinery to work. That's what energy security is about. Is to allow Dangote refinery to work. Because if you frustrate it out of the market, you are dependent on import. I want us to look and see how does this thing benefit Nigeria? Because the idea is not just every government official, even not just the government, even the people, everyone should be working in the benefit of Nigeria. You may not like that, or you may think that Dangote is a monopoly. I don't know. I've not looked closely into the whole thing, but it's very possible. So if you think that Dangote is a monopoly, now let us look. Allowing the Dangote refinery function to produce oil for Nigeria or keeping Nigeria dependent on imports, which is in the favor of Nigeria. My money is on Dangote. Guess how much this thing is really stupid and it's really frustrating Dangote. Because first of all, Nigeria is the largest producer of oil in Africa. It's supposed to be the largest producer, but this whole oil theft and the rest of it is sometimes the number of oil we produce is not as much as it's supposed to be. But normally Nigeria is supposed to be the largest producer of oil in Africa. Nigeria is supposed to be the largest producer of oil in Africa and one of the biggest in the world. Yet, Dangote does not get crude oil from Nigeria. Getting crude oil from Nigeria to refine is a problem. Instead, we are seeing that Dangote refinery is importing crude oil from the United States. Dangote refinery is importing crude oil from Brazil. Dangote refinery is speaking with Libya and Angola to import oil. When Nigeria is sitting on Nigeria is sitting on a flood of crude oil. If that's not bad enough, a government official is now coming out to say that he's producing inferior oil. So there's already allegations that that several officials and several people who are part the oil cabal, like I mentioned earlier, is taking Nigeria's oil. In fact, maybe it's one of these oil that we keep hearing that they are stealing Nigeria's oil, but it's taking Nigeria's crude oil, refining it in Malta, and sending it back to us. But let's look at, like I mentioned, I want us to look at how does Dangote refinery benefit Nigeria? If we allow this refinery to function, Nigeria reduces its dependence on imports, meaning it frees us to use our dollar to get other things. Because if you are going to be buying crude oil and fuel and petroleum products from Dangote, we're not buying it in USD, we're buying it in the local currency naira. So this issue that we're having with dollar, at least it will reduce because we are not getting our oil from we're not importing our oil. That's number one. Number two, Dangote refinery functions. It's in because it's adding to Nigeria's economic growth. It's employing Nigerians, even as it begins to export crude and petroleum products to other countries around the world, not just in Africa, but around the world. And it's paying tax. It's adding to Nigeria's economic growth. So this idea of importing oil does not benefit Nigeria. It benefits outsiders because we used to get our oil from refineries in Europe, places like Netherlands. It affects them. So if we keep on importing, it's adding to the economy of European countries that do not have oil. That do not have oil. But who are we? Who is now who is looking to it to see that the European interest is preserved and the Western interest is preserved in Nigeria? Nigerian players, people like the NNPC and this government regulator that has the audacity to come out without evidence to say Dangote is producing inferior oil when it does not even have, at least according to Dangote, they don't even have the lab to test the quality of the petroleum products. Later, these are the people who come out to say we are demarketing Nigeria, but they are the biggest demarketers of Nigeria. If outside players, legit businesses who want to come in to do business in Nigeria, if they see the way you're treating a Nigerian business owned by a Nigerian who has added so much to the Nigerian economy, if they see the way you're frustrating him out of the market, why should they come in? Why should they come in to do business in Nigeria? Why? Why? So you see why many sometimes when I advocate for working with everybody and several people coming to say, oh, that many of these are leaders in Africa and those in prominent positions in Africa, they don't work in the benefit of Africa. They work in the benefit of outsiders. Because keeping Nigeria dependent on outside oil, it does not benefit Nigeria. It's benefiting outside players, external players. It's benefiting external players. I really don't know if Nigeria and many other countries across Africa, if they want to die on imports. So we have this idea, which is really wrong and does us more harm than good, that things that we import are better because they are far superior to local products. Yes, in some areas it could be true. But if you want to build an economy and you're serious about building the economy of Nigeria, you know the importance of supporting local businesses. You know the importance. It's in, for example, let's use this issue of cars. There was sometime last year that a government official also, I watched the video, said that made in Nigeria cars are substandard. She said it boldly. I don't know if I can find, but if I find the video, I'll put it. But if I can't find the video, I'm sorry. But she said it boldly that made in Nigeria cars are substandard. How can you open your mouth to say this thing? When you go to the United States, you see um, Biden and US officials, they're driving American cars. They're driving Teslas and Fords. You go to Europe, you see government officials in Germany, they're driving German cars. You look at China, Xi Jinping and his cabinet and government officials, they're driving made in China cars, Chinese cars. You look at Russia, Putin and his government officials. In fact, I believe that was 2 years ago or so. They made it mandatory for government officials to drive made in Russian cars. They're driving Russian cars. But it's in Africa you see that we spend billions importing cars for our government officials. Why are we not driving Nigerian cars? That will be adding to the economy because these people are working in the country. I don't know how someone like me who's just using my phone to do these videos, I know more of these things than our so-called officials. So how did they get into government in the first place? How is it that the worst of us are leading the rest of us? If you want to grow the economy of Nigeria, it's to put and feed local businesses, not frustrate them out of the market, to serve outsiders, and then just a handful of of of, of people in Nigeria. If a whole Dangote is complaining, a whole Dangote, the richest man in Nigeria, the richest man in Africa, the richest black man in the world, in with net worth of tens of billions of dollars, if Dangote is complaining, then what about other businesses? You know, there's something that people tend to say. There's this lady, ah, I think it's in Margaret Wade. I'll find her full name and I'll put it. She always says that the reason for Africa's economic issue is the fact that Africa is not a good place to do business. She always says it, but me, in some instances, I push back against that because some of the arguments she makes are not completely true. But these things like this that gives her and others weapons to say, give them evidence to say this is what I'm saying. Because you tell me, why does it make sense to frustrate and punish a Nigerian business? A business like Dangote that's employing thousands. Okay, one of the things you came out to say as a result of this fight between he and the government, one of the things he came out to say is that he intended to start a steel plant. He said he's not doing it again before they call him monopoly. But how many other people have access to the funds that Dangote has? How many other Nigerians have access to the contacts and the resources that Dangote has? So he is actually in the best since the government. Look at the Ajokota, I can't remember the name of that steel plant that has been off for how many decades? It was the Soviets that helped Nigeria, worked with Nigeria to build that steel plant. Till today, it's not functioning. Till today, as we speak, it's not functioning. So it's clear everybody knows that Nigeria needs a steel plant. What about the one? There was this one that set up by Indians some years ago. But this year they left the Nigerian market. Why? Because they said it's hard, very difficult to do business in Nigeria. They said they left or they said they were going to leave because of the policies that this administration has put in place that are frustrating businesses, both energy policies and then the inflation and the rest, economic policies in general. So it's either they have left or they said they were going to leave. It's another thing. So we need a lot of steel plants in Nigeria. But for now, Dangote is the one best suited to be able to give us this thing. Not because, oh, he's the savior of Nigeria, but because he has access to the resources we need. Like the resources needed to set this thing up. But now he said he's not doing it because of the backlash. And he said, oh, before they call him a monopoly. Who is it affecting? This decision they have made. It's not really affecting Dangote. He's a rich man. Dangote is a billionaire. The money he has is not it's enough for him and his plenty down the line. Who does it affect at the end of the day? It affects Nigeria. These people in office are supposed to be advocating for the interest of Nigeria, yet they are working against the benefit of Nigeria. There are several other prominent business people who have come out, like what's his name? Um Femi Otedola. Like Femi Otedola, he has come out to speak against this thing. Even the head of the Afribank, see Adebumi, I can't remember, I'll put his name here. He has also pushed back against this thing. Everybody is clear to everybody that this is a stupid decision from the government officials and the regulators to punish Dangote, to frustrate Dangote out of the market. At the end of the day, these policies are injuring Nigeria, they're damaging Nigeria. If you want to build the economy of Nigeria and the economy of Africa, you cannot look away from businesses. Businesses are the backbone of any economy. Let's look at now they tell you we are throwing ideas in the air. This is how we build. This is how we build. But many of these ideas they are thrown in the air. Some of them have not been implemented. So we don't know how they would work. So the best way to check to see how to actually grow an economy is to look at history and look at the economies that have grown. What did they do? What helped them? Now we look at United States. The backbone of the US economy, that United States became a global force, was not because they were saying they were doing crazy things against businesses. It was to allow businesses grow. The likes of Rockefeller, the likes of Ford. You say, oh, sometimes they say, oh, the reason why we keep importing is that African products are substandard, African cars are substandard. Go and look at when they started with cars in the United States. The cars didn't start like this now. The cars didn't start like this. Look at the first iPhones. It didn't start like this. You remember, okay, and you say, oh, that was years ago. So, well, now the whole technology has advanced, so we need to advance with it. Remember, let's look at China. The cars had already advanced per se. When China came on the scene and said, no, we need to begin to do Chinese cars. Even I remember when they told Elon Musk that Chinese electric cars were going to pose a threat to Tesla. Elon Musk laughed. Today, Chinese electric cars are number one in the world. Electric cars from China are the number one in the world. Why? Because the Chinese government, even if it's a communist government, communism is supposed to be like, oh, the argument that communism doesn't give room for businesses to thrive, but it allowed businesses to thrive. So we should learn. Instead of we to be thinking of ideas that are far-fetched that have not been implemented, so we don't know. Let us look at the way history works. How did these economies grow? Like I mentioned, United States. We had the Vanderbilts, we had the Carnegies, we had the Rockefellers, we had the Fords, we had all those people who complained that these guys were monopolies, but they worked for in the interest of the United States. Look at Europe. When Europe became global economic superpower, what was it? Businesses were the backbone. Look at China. Look at China. We complain, oh, communism, communism, communism. Look at the businesses that are going up in China. How many billionaires do you see on this Bloomberg and Forbes list? How many of them are from China? A lot. Why? Businesses. So if you want to grow Africa, if you want to grow Nigeria, you cannot treat businesses like this and you think, and they know well, they know fully well. These people who are doing this, they know fully well. They are trying to frustrate Dangote to benefit outside external players and a handful of internal players who are benefiting from this system. There's something I want to say before I round up this segment. There's something I want to say. See the way your country is in Africa, and you're complaining you don't like it. All across Africa, see the way your country is. There are several people in your country who are benefiting from the way your country is. There are several people in your country who are benefiting from that chaos as much as external players and external countries are benefiting. So it is in their interests, their selfish interest, to let your country stay like that. You may say, but a lot of people are poor. They don't care. Africa is so backward compared to the rest of the world. They don't care. The more backward it is, the better for them. So I said that to say this. As we are coming together to say we want to build Africa, as we are coming together to say we want to pull Africa out of poverty, as we are coming together to say we want to make Africa a formidable player on the global stage, know fully well that there are several people in Africa and in your respective countries that don't want that thing to happen. Why? Because they're benefiting from the chaos. So we will build Africa. But we are going to build Africa bearing in mind that these people and these players exist. Dangote, you think that because it's so big, it should be immune to all this kind of of conspiracy. But you clearly see he is not. Dangote is not. So talk more of we who are who are coming in to say, oh, Africa can change and we want it to change. We will change Africa. I'm telling you, there's no doubt in my mind. Listen, there's no doubt in my mind. We are going to build Africa. We are going to transform Africa. We are going to make poverty a thing of the past in Africa. Me and you know, don't look for, don't say, she's talking to somebody. It's not, it's you. You that you feel like you've not eaten all day. It is you, me and you that will do it. We are going to do all these things. We are going to make Africa a formidable player on the global stage. But I want you to keep in mind, even as I keep in mind, that as you are going out to do this thing for Africa, there are people who are going to say no. And me and you, we are going to get backlash. We are going to get sabotage like this, like what Dangote is saying. We are going to see a lot of it. But I brought that up to say, keep your mind stayed on what you want to do in Africa. Because the transformation of Africa is in our interest. The transformation of Africa is in the interest of Africans. The transformation of Africa is in the interest of all of us, not in the interest of a handful of people who want to keep this continent and even Nigeria in such a chaotic mess. We will build Africa, but we will build it. We will transform Africa and we'll transform it. We will make Africa a formidable player on the global stage, and we will do it in spite of those people who are benefiting from the chaos.